Hello, graduates, and congratulations. Today is a day of celebration of your accomplishments and the many steps you've taken to get to this moment. I encourage you to embrace it, to take a quick moment and acknowledge all of the work that it's taken for you to accomplish this win. If you think of this journey as a road trip, it's been filled with bumps in the road, detours, traffic jams, construction, horrible weather, and even car failure and accidents. There have also been some beautiful scenic routes, wonderful people to share the road with, and some really great music to sing along to. Despite all of the challenges and obstacles, here we are, celebrating you. We're here to acknowledge your hard work and dedication. Hopefully today you're playing your favorite songs. My story isn't unlike many of yours in that it's had its ups and downs. I've made it here even though and maybe because life hasn't been easy. It's been filled with some major delays and road conditions really meant to end my journey. You see, I'm a survivor of childhood trauma and abuse. I'm a survivor of a mental illness. I live with a devastating condition called borderline personality disorder. It's also mixed with major depression and generalized anxiety. But I'm living proof that recovery is possible. You see, borderline personality disorder is characterized by these wild mood swings and the inability to really hone and focus in and understand emotions and why they work. It's kind of like everything is on my sleeve. Happiness, sadness, fatigue, anger sometimes. Identity issues, abandonment issues. It's one of those conditions that nobody ever wants to treat. So to be here with you today, for me, is remarkable. And I hope that anyone that identifies with this story, that you understand how remarkable you are too. No matter what age you are, this is just the beginning. I was considered an adult student when I began my quest for higher education. I had my first child at 18, so while I was a traditional age student, I had some fairly adult concerns that limited my options. I worked full-time to provide for my daughter and I, while also going to school full-time. I don't know how I did it. And my jobs weren't glamorous. I worked at a toothpaste factory and several telemarketing agencies, and too many odd jobs that the temp agency sent me on to count. To be honest, I wasn't good at any of it, which is why I needed my education. But I did what I needed to do in order to survive. I spent a couple of years at a 2-year school and never graduated, so you've got me beat there. But I was able to use my time there to obtain my 4-year degree from Empire State College in New York State. It was created for people like me, adults that for whatever reason were looking to obtain their bachelor's degree to enhance their career. Now by that time, I'd gotten married, I had 2 more children, and inherited a stepdaughter to make our family complete. While I was working on my 4-year degree, I was finally working a stable position as an administrative assistant in a legal department. But I was doing the work of a paralegal, but because I didn't have the training to be paid as one, I enrolled in a weekend course to obtain my paralegal certificate. Now I'm telling you this part because it's important to the story, so I don't want you to forget. Now, from the time I started college to the time I graduated with my bachelor's degree took me over 10 years. And at one point I had to take a medical leave because my mental health was faltering. The folks at my school were the most compassionate and understanding people. I may have lost semesters, but they worked with me, providing me the tools that I needed to eventually be victorious. But the story isn't over. You see, I wanted to work in higher education, and in order to do so, you had to have a master's degree. Now, there was a cohort-based program with guaranteed 2-year graduation that was very attractive because I didn't have 10 more years to waste. But it was also very traditional at a very conservative college. And it was tough, but I made it in exactly 2 years. I ended up working at my dream school in undergraduate admissions, traveling throughout the state, recruiting students, traveling across the country, attending trainings. I had the whole corporate credit card for my expenses. I mean, I made it. But then I found myself unemployed after a new administration took over the college and subsequently my department. I had a 7-year career in higher ed. Yeah, it took me longer to get the education than it did to actually work in the field. Now, I received several promotions while I was there, so I got to leave as a senior assistant director. While I searched for comparable employment using all of my transferable skills, I couldn't get hired to save my life. I was in danger because unemployment was quickly coming to an end and I was still jobless. A woman I worked with at the legal office heard I was looking for a job and her employer was hiring. So I started a position as a paralegal at Erie County Medical Center, our region's only level 1 adult trauma center. You see, the only thing that qualified me for the position was that paralegal certificate I obtained 15 years before. Not the long time coming bachelor's degree, not the expensive master's degree, not the years spent working in higher education, but that paralegal certificate. I worked very hard to make the professional progress I made, but I needed to work. By this time, I'm divorced, my children are adults, and I'm just trying to survive. Again. I wasn't good at that position either, but I kept my colleagues laughing and we had a great rapport, but there was no way I was going to make it there. Then one day, some random guy comes knocking on the office door looking for me. He was there to offer me a position in another department as an administrative assistant. Now, it didn't make sense professionally to take the position, but it was more money. And I wouldn't have to read through hundreds of pages of bank statements anymore. A few months into the position, I was able to lobby for a title change because I really wasn't doing the work of an administrative assistant. So I became the director of communications for DSRIP, which is a Medicaid redesign program. That then led to me becoming the director of community relations for the same hospital. I began working on health and racial equity, representing the hospital on community initiatives and creating initiatives of my own. I became the voice of the hospital in the community and the voice of the community in the hospital. Now, all of this while I continued to find ways to address mental health for women and communities of color through the creation of my mental health and wellness organization, Front Seat Life, LLC. Unbeknownst to me, people were watching the work I was doing, and somehow I made an impact. Last year, I was awarded a $40,000 grant under the Lisk-Rubinger Fellowship to develop a one-on-one peer mental health coaching system. And this year, I was awarded the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Humanitarian Award by the City of Buffalo for my work in mental health and racial equity. And believe it or not, I've returned to higher education to work on a research project addressing mental health for community members during the pandemic. You see, none of this was in the plan. The goal was always to just enjoy the ride, to make the trip worth all of the challenges I had faced. The goal was always to be the light for people struggling to find their way. Now, I'm sharing my story with you because you may not be able to see what tomorrow brings. You may not have a 5-year plan. Maybe you can only see far enough ahead to just celebrate today. And that's okay. Just know that as long as you keep driving, recovery is possible. The road isn't always straight. And it's never too late to change directions. Detours are inevitable, but they can make the trip worth the ride. So graduates, I salute you. You made it despite the obstacles. The journey is not over. It's only just begun.